Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Grab a mug of care and join us for some Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.
Yes, please.
Hey, y'all, I'm Tanya Marco, Viodo, they, them.
And I'm Nick Venegoni, he, they. And we are Queer Spirit, a grassroots nonprofit. And we are on a mission to provide community care and magic to all people everywhere.
We are QS.
Grab your mug of care and join us for one of our free virtual monthly care circles. During our time in community, we explore queerness and allyship through meditation, breathwork, movement, play, sound, and voice.
Mm-hmm.
We gather on the first Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific, the third Sunday of the month at 5 p.m. Pacific, and the fourth Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific, the POC Care Circle guided by Tanya Mark.
QS is super duper passionate, y'all, about supporting helpers, caretakers, and space holders and getting the support and care they need. Please reach out to Nick and I, as we'd love to curate a care circle for your group or organization. Lastly, drum roll, please. We're excited to share that we are officially a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization.
Woohoo!
This means that any time you donate to QS, it is tax deductible.
We welcome donations in any amount to support our vision to bring community care and magic to all people everywhere. Okay, now on with our care chat.
Yes, please.
Hey everyone, we're so grateful to be here today. Queer Spirit, Nick and I are here sharing some time with Ellen Wong, and it feels really good to just kick off here describing Ellen as an entheogenic medicine, breathwork companion who honors death as a vital aspect of life. Ellen, it is so lovely to have you here.
Thank you both so much for the invitation. I feel like I've been looking forward to this for, it feels like years actually. And to be able to sit here with you guys and to be, having this conversation on this really auspicious and really sacred of days, as the veil is thin and our ancestors are surrounding us, feels even more special, and again, the chills, I feel like every time I speak the word ancestors, I get this wave. So yeah, they're here, I feel like, cheering us on right now.
Hell yeah. I just want to name to our listeners, Ellen and I have been swimming in friendship waters for some time, and then Nick and I have been swimming, and y'all, it's been just a dream of mine for the three of us to come together, and coming together today on the stage just feels incredibly potent, and I'm so excited to see where we flow.
Yeah, and for those of you listening in the future, we're recording this on Halloween, on Samhain, which is the pagan holiday of remembrance for our ancestors, connecting with our ancestors. And for those of you in the community and listening to other care chats and care circles, we've been building up to this season, talking about ancestral reverence and remembrance and healing and gathering gifts and wisdom from our wise and well ancestors. So Ellen, you were talking a little bit just now before we started recording about art, and I'm curious, if there's ways how you incorporate any kind of artistic practice into some of your ancestral work.
That's such a good question because, I feel like I'm still identifying for myself what art is, and I'm kind of coming to this realization that even the circles, like the breath work and medicine circles that I facilitate, crafting a playlist, bringing in altar work, creating an altar, all of that really is art, right? Because it's all expressions of life and expressions of relationship, which is kind of what I believe art is. I think we very traditionally, probably look at art as something that is drawn or something that is, you could hear, or listen to, something that, you can witness and look at. But I really am starting to see art being just really any kind of expression of your aliveness. And so and that like kind of that is infused with your creativity. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you're creating, like an altar is a work of creation, right? The way you construct your altar, some people
Mm.
do it by even seasons, right? Bringing in elements or spirits that they want to work with at certain seasons or honor certain seasons. And to me, I feel like an altar is is a living portal of energy, but it's living art. It's art.
Mm.
It's an expression of your creative life force. And again, that it's a portal to connect with other spirit, right? So, you know, it it's a spiritual meeting place, but it's an ever evolving piece of art. Um, you guys are actually giving me ideas now. Even as I'm speaking, I'm like, ooh, there's a
Amazing.
project here,
Yes, yes, we love a good project. Oh.
I
So
love that
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
love that you mentioned portals because I was just going to say that one of my teachers, Isa Gucciardi, I've taken courses with her about working with portals, and she talks about how birth is a portal and death is a portal, but also art and the creative act is a portal. That
Oh
there's a
yeah.
way that we're connecting with other energies when we get into that space, when we open that portal of creativity and art. And it's just like, what's going to emerge? I don't know what's going to happen here, but it's so magical. And for me also, I've been getting more into art recently in the last year, coming back to my art practice. Um, and it's also a place of like being present, which I think also when you step into that liminal space, whether you want to call it a portal or sacred space or ritual space, that it's a it's a place and a time of being present, and you can really like just be in the moment. And it's really good for your brain and your body and your heart and your mind to just kind of like
Mhm.
let everything else melt away for the time being and just be
Ooh.
present with what happens, whether you're like just focusing on that stitch that you're working on, or you're like constructing that thing or whatever it is, or crafting that word or that playlist, that you can just be present with that creative experience in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
What you're saying, Nick, it just like gave me a light bulb moment where I was sharing with the two of you that I'm kind of in this really interesting transition period
Mm.
in in kind of just allowing this next era or phase of my creative expression to come through, whether it's in the circles I'm facilitating or, books that I'm writing or podcasts that I'm creating. But I feel like what you were saying about the presence of just being there and letting whatever energy wants to, how it wants to work through you and letting whatever wants to emerge just come through, that is exactly what I am learning how to do in life, not
Mm.
just in a project, but in life. And I think, prior to this moment or this, transitional portal, area or time, I've always been very like, let me identify the goal or the destination of what I'm trying to, where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to build towards. And, what emerges from that process emerges. But there was always this sort of like, that's not even just a North Star, like not even an intention, but that's what I want to build. It's that thing, there was like
Mm-hmm.
such a defined idea of where I'm going. And I think now, again, Nick, I feel like what you were just sharing, it's making me realize that I'm actually trying to live now as an artist, or have a more artful approach to my life where I don't know what that destination is. I don't even know if there is a destination. I'm just trying to live moment by moment and allow whatever needs to emerge out of me without second guessing it, stopping myself, questioning, belittling, or saying I can't do it, like all these things that used to get in the way. I think the healing journey I've been on has finally allowed me to embody this much more trusting and present kind of space, like my vessel being
Mm.
a space for life to flow through it, And doesn't mean I have I don't have bad days or days where I feel stuck or whatever. But that, in essence, is, I think, become my new intention. How do I live more artfully,
Woo.
and thus
Mm.
embody my aliveness even more than I had been before?
Yeah, Ashe. I mean, both of you are just like, oh, it's so delicious where you both are traveling. And I think what comes to mind is this idea of what happens when we do tap into art, whatever that might mean, fill in the blank. And then there's a ton of shit that happens behind the scenes. But what's great about it is we don't have to worry about the behind the scenes stuff. We can be present, we can just be in creative expression and allow that to be plentiful, right? And
Yes,
allow it
yes.
to sprinkle and land wherever it needs to on our personal or spiritual or energetic landscapes, like, and allow that to drive. Right. And what you both are talking about is just, woo, like, yeah, like I think when I think about that, I think about one of my elders who has been sharing with me because Inez Singletary, she lived through the civil rights movement, right? And we've been talking a lot about, like, I'm like, well, what did you do during that time, right? And a lot of it was create. She was creating. She's a crafter, so like, and but it's that idea of like crafting on her own and then coming together to craft with others, right? Or to sing with others. And I feel like, this is a beautiful kind of way of saying like each of us is identifying how we're arting within ourselves, if you will.
Yes,
And
yes.
then now there's this fucking invite to go, okay, how can we do that in community? Which we're doing right here in
Yeah.
this moment, coming together and sharing about the things that light us up and the medicine of what happens when we just follow what lights us up.
1,000%. And I think this is also where death plays such an important role, this wasn't even in preparation for this conversation, but this morning I found myself saying the words, death is life, is death, is life, is death, is life, is death, and that is the cycle, right? Like death actually is life. It's not that it just activates life or that it initiates, it is life. You have to have death in order for life to happen. Just like I think in order to allow the emergence, the birthing, there has to be a willingness to let go or to hold very lightly whatever it is that you are currently embodying, to allow that energy to shift and move and
Mm.
change and switch directions or whatever. And I think I'm learning how to let go. I'm learning how, I've spent the last 8 years, maybe more 5 years concentrated in growing this business and practice I call Trip with Ellen, as a death worker, as a medicine person, and now I'm feeling myself evolving. Still very much a self-identified medicine person, but I don't know if that looks like holding mushroom journey circles for people anymore. I have
Hmm.
no idea what that looks like anymore. But I'm starting to like let that energy sort of be embodied in a way that wants to shift and change and transform however it needs to, without holding so tightly to like, no, but a medicine facilitator looks like this.
Hmm.
Nick's looking at me, I'm looking at him, just so y'all know, because it's like, who's gonna get in there? I just want to name, like, in the same way, Ellen, like Trip with Ellen, like in your evolution, Nick and I, through Clear Spirit, have also been embarking on our own transformation. Like where we started is most certainly not where we are right now. And I think there's been a deep invitation in our circles to, that we share with others publicly and in these care chats to bring us, not just us, but the art part of it, right? Like we started curating our own music, which tapped into things that's like, holy moly, I didn't even know that was there,
Hmm.
And like, that's so fun, it makes it fun and it takes it. And I hope that our folks that join us can feel the intention around the curation. I know that I've attended plenty of circles with you. Oh my God, y'all, they reek of care. Attend a space with Ellen, and you're guaranteed to just be able to be so held. Your container, your medicine, your guidance is woof, like wowza. And I've been lucky to honor watching you transition, like, transform, and transition into wherever, your team has seemed fit for you to evolve into. So, like, yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
I say the same about your spaces too, TM. Like, and I've had the honor of being able to co-hold spaces with you too.
Yeah.
And it always, there's such consideration that you put into the way we even enter into the space. You know, it is all about creating a really safe and sacred space. But when I say safe, I think even that definition is changing for me, because I think, you know, discomfort is and pain, honestly, is kind of part of growth. And so sometimes I find that even in the safe spaces that we create, if there is perceived harm, you know, and I say perceived because it doesn't necessarily mean intentional harm, but if there's perceived harm, that sometimes is the medicine of these spaces too, you know. But to me, I feel like whenever I'm in a space with you, there is just this sense of like, ooh, I'm so held. It's like being swaddled by like a baby. Like there's like cloth around you, you know, and you're just like, oh, I'm in this like little womb, you know. It feels that way energetically. It's so Loctite, and you're just in it, and you can drop away and have the experience that you need to have. And going back to like what Nick was saying about presence, that is to me the ultimate presence. When you don't, your nervous system, your body's not like, ooh, I need to be protecting myself. I need to be watching what I'm saying. I need to, you know, all that shit drops away, and you're just there, and you're just there experiencing whatever, you know, letting whatever needs to emerge.
Yeah, yeah. I want to come back to what you were saying, Ellen, about life is death is life is death, and thinking about art in that way. And um, I've noticed, especially as I've gone back to my art practice more recently, that there's this idea about like, okay, you've created something, and now what? What do you do with it, right? And there's people who sell art, there's people who give away art, there's people who keep art, and but that coming back to that, art is a portal, or being in a portal to create art. Like there's this thing that you create, and it's almost like you are a parent to that piece of work. You're giving birth to something, and then you like let it go, you send it out into the world, and then what happens to it? And can you let go and just not be attached to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also thinking about like, and then when you let it go, like that's a loss.
Yeah.
Thinking about like this idea of death, like whether you've spent days or months or years working on a piece, and then it's done, and then that experience is over. The
Mm-hmm.
impermanence of that, and also the transformation of that. In the artwork I've been doing a lot of like mixed media, paper, ephemera art with, and trading it through the mail with folks.
That's
And
so
what I've
cool.
started to do is take the stuff that people send me and then use it as pieces, maybe cut it up or paint it or do something else and make something new with it. So this idea of like life is death is life is death, like art is then art is then art is then art. It's like
Yes,
it,
yes,
it
yes.
sort of feeds itself in a way.
I love what you're saying. You know, it's funny. It brings to mind. Have y'all watched K-pop Demon Hunters? What
No.
everybody's talking about. Um,
It's on my list. It's on my list because I know it's supposed to be phenomenal.
it's so good. I got sucked into the songs, and there's one particular song I'm sure you guys have heard, even like little snippets of it, called Golden. And the woman who wrote it also sings. She's like one of the singing voices of the main characters, and she was talking about the song was like it's just so beloved now, you know. And I just watched it last night right before I went to bed. She created this song that is so meaningful that people have. I mean, if you my algorithm on Instagram now is just like all people doing their own version of Golden. So I just keep on seeing like just people reacting to it, people singing it, people like dressed like her because it's Halloween, you know, all these things. And this particular reel that I watched last night, she was, you know, very tearfully recalling that one of the things that has struck her so much about this song is how it touches other people, you know.
Mm.
And in one particular case, she heard a story about a person who was literally on their like second minutes before dying, and requested this song,
Aw.
Oh.
and the nurse that they were with sang this song, you
Aw.
know, to this person as they were dying. So this was the last thing that they heard. And she's just crying, telling the story, because she's like, I can't, it's like, what an honor to be a part of somebody's final breath with this thing that I created. And so, Nick, what you're talking about, like art is art is art is art, it's like when you create something, just like a child, right? When you create something and you birth it and you release it and you let go and allow it to take on a life of its own, in a sense, and grow and be in relationship with others in their own ways, it's generative. It's like generating life and love,
Mm.
and like it's breathing life into it. And so I see it's almost like in that death of like letting it go and birthing it out into the world, there's a death, right? In that letting go, and it begets the life that it now has the ability to create. And then again, a letting go of whoever, and sending onward, outward. And that to me was just such a beautiful representation of the ripple effect of art, of anything that we create, whether you want to call it art or not, it's powerful, it's like death and life cycles, like just interwoven into its being.
Yeah. I'm going to circle this back to the K-pop Demon Hunter because here's why. Because your offerings have shifted. I noticed that you have some upcoming offerings called Breath Play, and I was hoping, could you sprinkle in a little bit of how K-pop Demon Hunter meets Ellen Wong and Breath Play?
I mean, when I was telling my friends, like, I'm doing a breath work, like circle or practice to K-pop, they're just like, how does that even work? Like, that does not sound congruent at all. I think, again, going back to like where I'm at in this transition period, the I don't want to like take up too much space with this, but basically, TM, my backstory, but I really got into healing because I needed it most, right? And the thing I needed most was to be able to confront my grief and to finally allow it to take up space in my body without shame, without guilt, without, feeling frustrated or angry or any of that, but just allowing grief to be a part of my life. And so that's really what this whole journey has been for me so far. It's like confronting my grief, allowing my grief, loving my grief, expressing my grief. And so I think that really took me down this road of deep diving into death, right? Like what does it mean to die? What role does death play in our lives? Because I was so resistant towards it after losing my dad as a teenager, and not wanting to feel the pain of loss. I'm somebody who, goodbyes drive me crazy. Like, it doesn't even matter if I know you that well, but the feeling of like separation and having to say goodbye. Oh my gosh. This last time, going home to Houston, visiting my family, I have two nieces, one's 9, one's 7. The 9-year-old, I just feel like we were sisters in another life, and the three of us, I've seen us in, medicine journeys, in breathwork journeys, where the three of us are playing together like as peers, as siblings. And it feels very much like they are my sisters, not like they're my nieces. So whenever I see them, we drop into this like play, I'm like making jigsaw puzzles with them and we're just playing. I'm not trying to be a parent. I'm more like a peer, if anything. And, she has the same thing, the same, like, saying goodbye. It's like just the waterworks. It's so heart-wrenching for her to say goodbye. And she was holding on to me and didn't want me to go back to LA. And she was just like, I want you to stay, and just so distraught. And I felt for her because I'm like, this is how it feels like for me to say goodbye, And so really, the last 5-6 years have really been me confronting that what is that makes me feel so like heartbroken, like saying goodbye and loss, and all of that. And I think finally coming out the other side, where I'm recognizing the bittersweetness of that, like that heartbreak is so, because I love so deeply, and because I feel so deeply, and it it's like almost excruciating, to feel that sense of loss. Just even in a goodbye, not even necessarily a death, but just even a separation of space and time. So all this to say, like, I'm in this moment now of like, I think I needed to go through that very dark underworld of like confronting, essentially my shadows and all of this like grief work and death work. And I'm coming and merging up on the other side, kind of like Persephone re-emerging into the world from the underworld, and really recognizing like, oh man, there's so much life to be had. There's so much aliveness to be felt in the grief as well as in the joy. And I've spent so much time really exploring that grief so that I can embody my joy even more deeply, even more exuberantly. And that's what brought me to this whole new idea of creating a breathwork series for music files, because that's who I am. I live and breathe music. I'm married to a musician. And so it's been, it was like my first career learning to play piano and cello, and it's just always been a part of me. And I credit my mother for that. But I'm like, why does it have to feel like work all the time, And even the words breath work, it just feels so like, ugh, like I got to do this. Like, ugh, I don't want to do this. It's going to be hard. And like, so I'm like, you know what? Let's just make it fun. Why can't it be fun? Why can't it just be joyful, getting in and just breathing to some really poppy, K-pop dance music? I wanted to do the same for Depeche Mode. I just saw the Depeche Mode documentary.
Signing up for that.
Oh, it's so good.
That session's gonna be so good.
And then like, I love Dream Pop. I love Cocteau Twins and Mazzy Star and all, I love EDM. I love techno. I love trance. Like, so I want to do these, or hold these practices. I'm really calling them practices because it is kind of like, to me, going and doing yoga sometime, or, it really is an energetic hygiene kind of practice. But people, I think, get really scared because they think it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to see. And it's really heavy and dark and, and so they psych themselves out and don't want to go. So I'm in my like play era. I'm in my fun artist play area where I'm like, all right, breath play. I'm going to call it breath play. It's going to be breath play, not breath work, but breath play. So yeah.
Well, speaking of breath, let's just take a moment to take a breath together and digest all of these beautiful words of wisdom and inspirations. And speaking of goodbyes, it's time to say goodbye for now, but just taking a moment of gratitude. Gratitude to Ellen for being with us today. Gratitude to all of our ancestors. Gratitude to all of our creations that we've sent out into the world. I had this thought as you were talking about more about art, like when we create art or create anything, no matter what it is, we are ancestors to that art.
Wow. Oh my God. Full body like shivers. Like, whoa.
So we are already ancestors.
Amazing.
So all the listeners out there, no matter what you have created, whether it's art or a human being or a business or whatever it is, you are an ancestor to that thing that you have created.
I love that so much.
So just taking a moment to honor ourselves as ancestors and the ancestors who are no longer with us. And if you want to check out Ellen, go to tripwithellen.com, and we'll also have links to where you can find her online in the show notes.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, y'all. This is my thing. I like to bring in gratitude sprinkles and let them land wherever they need to and with whomever they need to. Thank you so much, Ellen. You know how much I love you. And thank you, Nick. Like, today has just been like chef's kiss.
Thank you guys so much. This was super fun. It's like one of the most fun conversations I've had in a podcast kind of setting. So thank you. I cannot thank you enough. There's so many things that crystallize for me in this conversation that I have to like leave and journal and just like embody them. So thank you.
And as we like to end, let's continue to take care of ourselves and each other.
Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.